All right, Jordan, we're back. We're talking about finCEN. Here's the thing. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, yeah. So FinCEN is the new regulation that is going to apply to certain transactions that close after March 1st of 2026. And so it's something that real estate agents need to be aware of. What types of transactions does it apply to? What does it mean when it does apply? And if you want to get into it, we can start with why. What is it that why are we having to do this now as an industry?
First off, let me ask this question. So if it comes into effect on March 1st, should I be worried about my contracts prior to that leading up to March 1st? Is that a thing I should think about?
Absolutely. Well, yes, because in any transaction that's going to close after March 1st, and often those transactions may be written before March 1st, yeah, you're going to want to have language in that contract to account for the fact, okay, yes, there's a new burden on buyers and sellers both if FinCEN applies that they have to do things. And so you want it built into the contract that they're acknowledging what it is they need to do and that they're agreeing to do it.
Okay, so the thing that I heard, I don't know much about finCEN, but that it affected who the buyer is, but you're telling me that it has an effect on the seller as well.
Yes.
Okay.
If the transaction qualifies as needing a FinCEN reporting requirement, then yes, the sellers are also going to have to answer some questions. Now, I think that the amount of buildup in anticipation for the FinCEN requirement, I think it's slightly overblown because having seen the documents or at least a draft of them, I don't really feel that the questions are too difficult for any party to answer if you're either the buyer or the seller, and especially the sellers. It's just basically filling out a form saying what this property is, who they are, what their birth date is, social security number, all information that they should have in their head. So it's just a matter of just writing it down on the sheet of paper and turning it into the title company.
Okay, so let's back it up a little bit. Let's start with what is finCEN? Why does it exist? And then we'll go into who this actually is for and who it affects.
So, FinCEN is, yes, a reporting requirement federally, so nationwide, that transactions will now have to file these reporting documents and answer these questions for the buyers and the sellers if the transaction includes a entity like an LLC or a trust as the purchaser, and they're using cash or land contract or private mortgage, anything that's not a traditional mortgage as the financing for the property or for the transaction. So if you have a normal individual as a purchaser, FinCEN does not apply. If the purchaser is getting a mortgage, FinCEN does not apply. But for those that it's a non-individual that is paying with cash is the most common, then yes, there's a requirement that they just have to answer some questions about who that entity then is, because it's not an individual, and where the money is coming from. In order for the reason behind it, it's has to do with money laundering and the federal
Okay.
government trying to crack down on the ease with which money laundering can occur in the real estate industry. So so that's the reason behind it is it's okay. It's to go after money laundering, make that more difficult. And so then is the burden being placed on buyers and sellers overbearing? In my view, seeing what the forms are, I don't think so.
Okay. So this is taking place March 1st. This is about who the buyer is if they are an entity and not a person. Now we are aware that the seller also has some burden if they accept one of these, but it is not burdensome.
Correct.
So how moving forward, how should agents be approaching this? Like what should they be talking about with their clients at this point?
Well, yeah. So in my view, I think, hey, we're in person today. We're not at our different location. I think it's a good opportunity to basically do some role playing. Let's, which do you want to be the client or the
I will definitely be the client.
Okay, so yeah, I'll be the agent. And do you want to start as a buyer or a seller?
Actually, because I think that we should start this way. Let's start with the seller.
Okay.
I will be the seller and we have to accept a contract, but
Yeah.
you need to explain to me what this does to me.
Okay. So, all right. So, Mr. Seller. So we have had our bidding war. We got a couple different offers in hand. One of these offers that, to me, you indicated that the terms were most appealing to you. I want you to be aware, though, that this is a cash offer that is from an entity that isn't an individual. And so there is going to be a FinCEN requirement that requires you to fill out a form and answer some questions in order for this transaction to be able to close.
Okay, so I have to answer questions because they're buying this in cash?
Correct. Yeah, it's a federal form that has to that the title company needs to collect and then file with the federal government after the closing. But it is just like at the closing table, you're going to be filling out forms and signing stuff. This is basically one form that you need to fill out before you get to the
All right,
closing
so
table.
so I'm confused. Does the government have to give me approval to move on with this transaction?
No, so it's not something that gets submitted to the government and then you have to wait for the government to say you can close. It's just that the title company, they're the ones bearing responsibility if they don't file this form. So they're going to say, hey, we're not getting to the closing table until you answer these questions. But these questions for you as a seller are very simple. What's the address? What's your name? What's your birth date? Social security number? That's basically it. And so just filling out that form and sending it to the title company because they'll provide it to you, that shouldn't be enough to make you view this offer in hand as
Okay.
risky, more risky than a normal cash deal.
So I'm not like answering questions of what I'm going to do with the funds, none of that stuff.
No.
It is just basic information that I'm already providing at the closing
Correct.
anyway.
And that's also in part because you own it as an individual. Now, if you happen to own it as an LLC or as a trust, if how you currently have hold title, then yes, you would have to provide your EIN number and some information, just again, the address and such of that entity that holds it. But again, nothing that would take you more than a moment to look up on your phone if you don't have it already, at top of mind.
Okay, so honestly, accepting this offer, if I like the terms, you were suggesting I accept this offer, and how much time would this take me? Like this form I have to fill
I
out?
mean, 3, 4 minutes?
Okay, so it's worth 3 or 4 minutes for a better offer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just because it's something new that was not required before. That's why, it's for those who have bought and sold many houses, okay, it's a new aspect to a transaction. And that it is occurring before the closing is what really sets it apart. If this was being done at the closing table, nobody would even think twice about it.
Okay. Well, great. Awesome. Well, thanks for the info.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. So now I get a decision if I want to accept the offer or not. I mean, some of the things are that when accepting offers from LLCs, you should also be aware that they have to be compliant with all the LLC stuff. But that has just always been real estate.
Right.
Like you need, articles of organization, things like certificates of good standing in the state of Michigan. All of that needs to be done. It can get into your way of your closing. But again, that's always been there. Just a little note for anybody accepting LLC or entity offers. Certificates of compliance or certificates of good standing can sometimes get in the way because that is a document this state has to send back. So just a little caveat to that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'll be the buyer
Okay.
now.
So now we're doing a buyer consultation because this is early on in the process because as an agent, we should know up front before we go to write the offer, we should already have asked our clients these questions if they're buyers. All right. We've gone over what it is you're looking for and how I can best craft a search criteria to be sending you properties. But I do want to get to what your financing is and how you plan to purchase this. If are you looking to buy it as an individual or as in a LLC or trust name?
So, I've been doing real estate for a while, flipping houses and doing rentals. So I'm going to be purchasing it in my LLC, just for that little extra security.
Okay, all right. And then as far as the financing, are you looking to do cash or obtain a mortgage?
No, I'll be doing cash.
Okay. So in that instance, then your process is going to look a little different than what you may have been accustomed to in the past with all these homes that you've bought and sold. Your transaction being it in your LLC name, paying all cash, that will qualify for a FinCEN requirement.
Okay, what is that? What is that?
So it's about 9 pages, but it's pretty straightforward, simple questions that you're going to have to answer and provide to the title company before you get to the closing table. And so the title company, we submit the offer as normal, seller accepts it, and you start the process, you do your inspections. But early on, the title company is going to send you a form and say, hey, you need to fill this out. And that form is going to contain the same information that you've already probably become accustomed to providing, but you're going to need to do it earlier in the process. Now, I guess one big question is, how is your LLC formed? Is there other owners of it? Or
No,
that this
I'm
was
currently the only owner of the
okay.
LLC.
Because if there were other owners, then yes, the information provided needs to be for each owner of the
Mm,
LLC.
okay.
So there are some entities that are rather complicated in how they're set up. And then, yes, this form can become more of a impediment to get to the closing table if you're waiting on getting some of the information from some of the other LLC owners. But since you're the only individual that's owner of the LLC, yeah, you'll need to provide information about the account that the money comes from, so account number, which institution is holding the money. But and that's about it. Information about the LLC and information about the funds and where they're originated from.
Oh, so they're gonna ask me where my funds came from.
Yeah, just they want to know the account.
Okay. Okay, is the government gonna get in the way of this in any way? Like, is this gonna be a burden to the seller accepting my offer?
No, the sellers should not view it as too burdensome. Again, they are also going to have to answer a form and fill out a form and submit it to the title company before closing, but not anything difficult that they should view as a reason to view your offer any less attractive than it stands on its own merit.
So now I kind of feel like this is a little invasive. What if I refuse to fill it out?
Well, then you're not going to make it to the closing table, to put it bluntly. The title company, they take on tremendous liability under these new FinCEN requirements. And so if they don't file the form with the federal government after it's closed, they take on financial and legal risks. And so the title companies are just going to refuse to do a closing until they have these forms filled out by both parties, the buyer and seller.
So if I feel like this is extremely invasive, I could just purchase it under my own name though, and then I don't have to do this?
Correct. Yeah. If you instead do this, want to be an individual purchasing it all cash, absolutely, then it's a normal deal. There is no FinCEN requirement. And, just to understand though that there's some buyers who think that they can buy it as an individual and then just quick claim it into their LLC. You likely won't be able to do that without doing the FinCEN requirement at that point. So,
Yeah, and I get that that voids my title insurance when I do that. So what
yeah.
was the whole point of
Right.
doing it that way? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Is there anything else I should know about this as a buyer?
So no, I mean, just the important thing is that when the title company provides us the form, that you fill that out and return it back to them as quickly as you can because it's otherwise going to hold up the closing. So we don't want any delays in closing. We want to make it a smooth transaction. Getting this form filled out and sent back to them, that's the best way to approach it.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.
All right. So we just did the role playing for you guys. Jordan and I both have kind of looked at this and we don't really think this is kind of you use the word nothing burger.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the TRID disclosure that I mean, years ago in the lead up to it, people were thinking, okay, oh, this is a big deal. And when it all was settled, yeah, okay, people adjusted fairly normal. And okay, trying to get your closing scheduled. Yes, the closing disclosure has to go out 3 days before, but it's not like you need the official clear to close before you can get the closing scheduled. So the biggest worries about TRID didn't come to pass. Likewise, I don't think with FinCEN, any of the worries that I've heard are really likely to actually come to fruition because I think once people see what the documents are and the questions being asked, it sounds worse than it is. It sounds like, oh my gosh, there's over 100 boxes, but those boxes are okay. Yeah, what's your name? That's an easy box, and half the boxes pretty much you don't need to fill out because there's a group that are if it's an entity, you fill out these ones. If it's instead a trust, you fill out these ones, and so you're automatically going to not have to fill out the other half.
Okay. So I can see the biggest risk here not being the forms, but agents that are uninformed. And then they're going to a closing table or they show up unprepared with their clients and they sit there dumbfounded when they hear the words FinCEN for the first time. Like that kind of seems to be the biggest risk here is uneducated realtors.
Right. Yes. And so that's why it's on us to know which questions to ask early on, especially yeah, if you're on the listing side, you're able to tell when you receive the offer, what is the purchaser name? Okay, yeah, is that an LLC or is it an individual or is it a trust? And then what is the financing? So you don't have to have that conversation with your sellers on every transaction. It's only a matter of if the offer that they receive is going to place that burden on them to fill out a form that takes 3 minutes. If they're your buyers, yes, you want to have the conversation up front to get a sense because you're already having that conversation. What's your pre-approval or what's your proof of funds?
Hmm.
You're having the conversation at the beginning of the process to find out how they are purchasing this property. So you just then need to be aware, okay, if they give you certain answers, oh, now you need to educate them on what it means with FinCEN because they are going to qualify.
Okay, so the two triggers are this: cash and name on the purchase agreement.
Yes. Yeah, the financing and purchaser name, that tells you all you need to know as to whether or not FinCEN is going to be part of it.
Well, cool. Well, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate how knowledgeable you are on this and keeping all of us going in the right direction.
pleasure. I'm not an attorney, but we are brokers. This is what we do for a living, and it's important for our agents to know the best practices to handle any changes that come our way.
Well, sweet. All right.
All right, thank you. And
Thank
it's
you.
great that you made it up in person to my neck of the
Yeah, finally. All right.
hoop. So we'll see you all next time.
Next time.